Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to another Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid unboxing. This is for Merciless Minions Pack 1. So this is definitely a cool idea that they started to do is normally to get more minions, we've had to have the big box sets, which have, the 5 Rangers, you should say 2 Masterminds, or bosses, one or two monsters, like 2 or 3, things, then 2 Zords are foot soldiers because they can add team boxes or just Rangers, and they can add just bossing monsters because they just have decks. But the problem with all the foot soldiers is because one, you have to have a ton of them, so we have 12 of each of the Cogs and Cyclobots. You also need to have the locations for them. Although what's also interesting with that is because they have the new G.I. Joe set that's coming out, Mission Critical, which is now using the same system as Power Rangers. It's called the Battle Guardian Battle or Battle Guardian system. So they don't have their foot soldier characters tied to a location. They have little tokens they put down. So you can put them on, use whatever one for whatever set, and you just attach that. So like, these are the blue guys, these are the red guys, and these are the locations they go to. So it's kind of neat. So they can start doing that with Power Rangers as well, but I think Power Rangers have the more iconic locations from each series, which they're still trying to hit. Although I think you're going to be able to mix and match those if you want to, like, then take any minion to any location, you're going to be able to do that. I think they're going to eventually upgrade there. But yeah, so they released these, so hopefully they keep doing stuff so they get more minions out there. Alright, so we have unique forces of evil. So we have Cogs for the Machine Empire, which are the guys that fight the Zeo Rangers, and the Cyclobots, which are for Ran 6 mutants who fight the Time Force Rangers. So we just did a video on the new Time Force Rangers came out. Zeo were already out, so now we have some foot soldiers to go with those teams, since they didn't get a big box. We're also going to get a third set of alternate putty patrollers called Chaos Putties. So we got enemy cards, deployment decks, and locations. The Chaos Putties work a little bit differently. So they have their own deck, just like everybody else, but they don't have any figures or deployment cards. To include the Chaos, use the Chaos Putties along with the figures and deployment cards of either the Putty Patrollers or the Super Putty Patrollers. So basically what you're doing is you're going to use those figures and locations and deployment decks. You're just going to swap out their ability cards. But that's definitely a neat thing they started to do. They're starting to do now too. There's a promo set, which I'll also do a video on, which has more stuff like that in there. So it's definitely cool. It's a neat way to get sort of alternate characters out there without, again, having to re-release more boards, make a ton of extra miniatures. And of course, there's all the awesome people that worked on these games. We'll love to always shout out all of them, especially guys like Scott Gata and Jonathan Ying. Who are always in the chats and on the Facebook page and stuff, talking to everybody. Same with Sarah Erickson for stuff. She's always answering questions. When these people that work with these games are interacting with the fans, it definitely makes things like this even more exciting. We're getting this cool content. They heard the fans. This is what they want. And they're going to give them to us. So let's go ahead and look at who our characters are. So we're going to start off with the Cyclobots, who fight the Time Force Rangers. Big old swords, single eyeballs. So these guys are going to go at either the Clock Tower, or the Biolab. And I'm not familiar enough with I'm not familiar enough with Space Rangers. Not Space Rangers, Time Force Rangers, to know what these all are. I know that I believe the Clock Tower is one of their hideouts. So here I have the Biolab, which has a pack of 6. During each battle at this location, the first time a foot soldier card is defeated, do not place its figure on the experience track. This is definitely an interesting hard mode. So when you defeat them, you don't gain any bonus for them. But to counteract that, we have the Clock Tower with 5, which says, during each battle at this location, the first time a foot soldier card is defeated, take an extra figure from the supply and place it on the experience track. Yeah, so that's definitely cool. So you actually gain some extra ones. Why did I want to think there was a... No, that just moves them. I was thinking there was a Time Force Zord that lets you move miniatures, but it lets you move Rangers. But yeah, that's definitely cool. So kind of like opposite effects there. So let's actually look at their cards. We're going to get 3 copies of Cleaving Strike. 3 health, deal 2 damage to 2 different Rangers. So pretty basic. These are kind of like, I'm gonna guess, like replacement, like putties, because sometimes they can't have always just be more and more difficult, especially being foot soldiers. 2 copies of Dense Defense, 4 health, guard, and drain 1. 3 copies of Forward March, 3 health, guard, and passive. Well, this card is in play after each adjacent enemy card resolves, deal 2 damage. Oh boy. Because adjacent's also upwards too, so you're at least going to get one of the monster cards or another foot soldier on the top row, potentially. And then 2 copies of Overwhelm, 2 health, and deal 2 damage. Skip the next ranger turn this battle. This is definitely never fun. And then we're going to get our cards, of course. We're going to have our 1s, 2 copies of 1 for each location. You get your 6 copies of 2s, so 3 for each location, and 2 copies of the 3s, so 1 for each location. That's the general breakdown for how those guys always play out. And then we didn't look at the miniature. So there's his little miniature. I like that he's holding this sort of downwards like everything else. I always show him kind of holding it up above their head. And this one he's just holding it downwards. It's kind of cool. And you're going to get 12 of these. So it should be enough to play with. Alright, then up next to fight off against our Zeo Rangers with the Machine Empire. Because we have the Ranger Pack and the box for Machine Empire. And then right now we have the Time Force Rangers, and I know they're coming out with set 5, villain set 5, which is Terror Through Time, which that'll have like ranks and stuff, so that'll be the villains for that. So now combined with this, you'll be able to have a full play set for the Time Force and the Zeo eventually, because you'll have heroes, minions, monsters. So we have the Cogs here. And they go to Stone Canyon High. And they fight on the Interstate Highway. Which seems very dangerous. Cogs, why are you guys fighting on the highway? Let's look at what those all do. So, here's our Interstate Highway. Which has a threshold of 7. One of the highest ones. I know there's too many that have any that high. When a ranger moves away from this location, they must discard the top card of their deck. Oh boy. And then Stone Canyon High, which is the exact opposite, can only hold 4. Has, when a ranger moves away from this location, they may choose 1 card from their discard pile and place it on top of their deck. So I like that both of these locations for both sets have opposite effects. It's just when they kind of want to jump in to protect it, because it only has 4, but at least then when they do leave, they gain a bonus for the 7 one, which they could kind of ignore for a bit. But when they do finally decide to leave, they're going to end up losing a card off their deck. So yeah, if it gets too overwhelming. It's kind of cool. Just a little bit different effects for each one's kind of the same with the other guys. So here's what our cogs look like. They got that little crouching pose. They kind of walk like that too, if I remember. They're like kind of stomp around. I always consider like that pose. Very, very mechanical because they're mechanical. So we have 2 copies of Clockwork Blaster. 3 health, fast, drain 1, deal 2 damage. There's our Zeo Rangers. 2 copies of Disassembly required. 3 health, passive. Well, this card's in play when another foot soldier card would be defeated by hits. KO all hit tokens are removed from that card, and this card is defeated instead. Definitely interesting. Haven't seen that type of ability before. 3 copies of Shock Spears. 2 health, drain 2 energy unless the ranger suffers 3 to prevent it. I always like alternate pay conditions. I'm definitely a fan of that. And then 3 copies of Tick Tock Tick. 3 health, guard. Deal 2 damage. Increase the damage by 1 for each other foot soldier card that has resolved. And there's like a clock behind them. It's kind of neat. It almost seems like that should be a time force ability and not as much a Zeo Ranger. So we're gonna get our 2 copies of the ones, our 6 copies of the doubles, and our 2 copies of the triples. So for half for each location. Then our final thing we're going to have is going to be Chaos Putties. And again, these guys are just replace them with one of the other Zeos. You could also, they mention Putty Patrollers or Super Putties. If you have the Kickstarter stuff, you could also do the from the Green with Evil set or the White Light set. I don't remember which one. It's all part of the big Kickstarter box. You also have the Z Putties as well. You can replace them if you want to use one of the other putties with those. Alternatively, you could always use any other figure, put them with anything. That's kind of the whole thing they're basically saying, is you could use this set with any deck. So they have a couple of different cards here. We have 2 copies of Cause Havoc. 2 health, drain 1, skip the next ranger turn during this battle. Don't want that to resolve. 2 copies of Chaos Burst. 3 health, deal unlimited damage to a single ranger equal to the number of cards in their hand. If their hand is empty, they must discard the top card of their deck instead. 3 copies of Erratic Movement. 2 health and passive. While this card is in play, increase the health value of each adjacent enemy by 1. Health value of each adjacent enemy by 1. 2 copies of Total Mayhem. 3 health, fast. Deal 1 damage to each ranger. Increase this damage by 1 for each panic location. And then finally, 1 copy of Forced Frenzy. 3 attack, fast. 1 ranger must discard 1 random card from their hand. If there's an attack, deal 2 damage to another ranger. Otherwise, drain 1 energy. It sucks because it's random, so you can't even get a choice. Yeah, so they get like 1 extra, like, different card. Usually it's like the structure of like 2, 2, 3, 3. They get like 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 2, and then a 1. A little bit more powerful, because they're supposed to be like a little bit better henchmen. And they're based off the comic book, which is also fun when they started doing that. I mean, clearly we've had the Omega Rangers and Solar Rangers and the Hyper Force. So it's fun that they're going out of just not strictly the TV shows. They're getting some of the other new media in there as well. So that is super fun there. Alright, so that is our Heroes of the Grid Merciless Minions pack number 1. Number 1 leads me to believe they'll have more. But this is also, again, a great way for them to, they can occasionally release big box sets with full teams like we did of course, Mighty Morphing, and then they did Hero Hyperforce with Shattered Grid. Then they did Rise of the Cycle Rangers. You had the Space Rangers, and then Heroes United, which let them get three different teams, because you had the Omega Rangers, the Beast Morphers, as well as one Solar Ranger in there. I don't know if they'll eventually release all the other Solar Rangers, just because they're all alternate versions of characters that exist. So I don't know how much different gameplay you would have from deck to deck. It'd be cool if they released alternate art cards, like not even maybe their deck, but even if it was just like their main character, maybe even their miniature. That'd be kind of cool, just an alternate art, but that's whatever altogether. But yeah, this is a great way for them to do that. So like we have Dino Thunder, coming, like Dino Thunder is a team pack that we have. I think that's the only other current small team pack I can think of. But yeah, something like that. Like they can eventually release bigger box sets like this. Hey, here's some minions to clean up some of them other ones we're missing. Definitely cool. Hope to see more. See you guys in the next video. Bye.